now we're glutted, but there will be I think there'll be a level of decrease just naturally, like evolution of some people falling out, just saying this is too chaotic and crazy for me as a single designer. I'm leaving. There are others who have a great handle on it and will thrive in this environment and will, have great success. And, but regardless, there's still you keep hiring and eventually the demand is going to stop. I mean, it's like in a recession. Design firms and architectural firms grew and then they shrunk and then they grew again.
Yeah, I like that answer.
What other answer could there be? You could go into other parts of the industry. You could try to maybe create different divisions.
Who knows? Maybe the demand is here to stay for the foreseeable future. I
mean, you could horizontally grow.
Yes, exactly. You mentioned earlier you use House Pro for your proposals and invoicing. Is there a specific tool in that environment that you really like, a feature that you really like?
In Ivy? Because I don't use House Pro for all the other. They've told you this before. You know that.
It's the same. Same and all.
I know it's the same home, but we really only use the Ivy portion. We're not using the 5 or 6 other tools that you have, I think, as part of House Pro.
Yes.
So within Ivy, I love your grabber. I think your grabber is amazing.
The product clipper.
The clipper. Yeah, the clipper. I love your clipper. I love that it auto-populates. So that was newer. So when you hover over something, it auto-populates the description. Super helpful.
Nice. Saves you time, yeah?
Yeah, so I think your clipper's good. Good clipper.
All right, then I have to ask you a question then. With all the streamlining you get with House Pro /Ivy and the time that you're saving, what do you do with that extra free time?
There is no extra free time. I actually think you don't have to put this in, but I don't really think it's saving us time, because if we weren't using a system like an Ivy, say it was a competitor, which is very similar, we'd be using QuickBooks or we'd be doing it by hand, and that's less time. So it's not saving us time. What it does though is it's a record or a history of your client's products. So over time, say somebody comes back to you 10 years from now or 5 years from now, you can actually look things up and come back to them. That's where for me, the time saver is.
It's an interesting point of view, because I think you're one of the first to talk about it as a repository, which I like. It's unique angle as to how you use House Pro per se. You use it as
I love that it's all documented in there. It's like having a cloud, and you can go back through your history and pull, we do get some publicity or press, and I'm able to go through and find, the fabric that I used on X or this that I used on that.
And your invoicing, since you're doing that through House Pro /Ivy, you are integrated with QuickBooks, I'd imagine? Yeah. And how have you found that integration?
It's gotten better. Because I used the older version of Ivy, not through House Pro. It was glitchier, but from what I understand, is through House Pro, it's a much better sync.
Yeah, I think that's been the case. We really worked hard on ensuring that connection is flawless. Let me ask you this. How do you envision the future of the industry in terms of its relationship with digital technologies?
I think that 3D rendering right now, which is still, for example, for a smaller firm or a medium-sized firm, it's not something we can just do in-house. It takes too much time, but it's going to become more user-friendly and less time-consuming. So hopefully it will become a tool that any design company can offer, which would be fantastic. And I think that, due to the exposure to HGTV in the industry, clients are expecting to see the renderings. They don't realize that it's costly and time consuming still to do. So, I'm hoping it becomes more ubiquitous and that we can really offer it.
And, you obviously working a lot on the go. You talked about, driving a lot and kind of visiting sites and a lot of remote work as well. I mean, how do you remain smart while working on the go?
Well, I use voice text a lot. Sure. So in the car, I voice text a lot of people. Delegate, because I delegate as much as I can while I'm driving. I take voice notes. Mm-hmm. So I often things pop in my head because when you're driving, you think. So I do that a lot. I listen to podcasts. So that's a good time to get business knowledge, when you're in the car.
Do you use, any iPad or iPhone or mobile phone apps? Do you use House Pro app, for example?
We will pull up House Pro, if I need to show somebody, a client, one of our invoices or proposals. So yes, we will. We've used Measure apps before. That's not about being on the go, but that's back to your digital question.
Right.
I'm trying to think what else we use, through a phone. I do want to get an iPad that we're all using in the office to capture our notes so we can write with a pencil. Mm-hmm. And then the notes would just, automatically upload into Google Drive rather than handwriting it and then scanning it and getting it in there.
Yeah.
So that's a next step, but.
Nice. It's funny. A lot of the older folks that I've interviewed, not your age, I mean, much older, that have been in the industry, they're a bit hesitant to adopt new technologies. What would you say to somebody, who is hesitant to adopt products like House Pro?
Oh boy. Game changer in technology. If technology is here to support us. So it might take a little while to learn, but if it's not useful, ditch it fast. Mm-hmm. But there are definitely at least 3 to 5 tools. I mean, we use Asana, we use Ivy, we use Canva, we use Google Drive, we use time tracking, which I know you can do through House, but I like my time tracker. Sorry. I like it a lot. So we use Noco for time tracking. So we have 5 at least, and then 5 digital tools at least, plus CAD, that's 6, or AutoCAD. Can we think of any other digital tools? Pinterest is 7. I would say we have room for 2 more, and then we're maxed out.
I love it, but that's ton of technology use.
8 pieces of technology that we use effectively.
Nice. That's good to hear that. All right, just a couple more questions. How do you stay on top of your tasks? How do you prioritize? And I want you to think of this answer through the lens of, because you've been scaling up so much, especially in the last year and a half, for somebody who finds themselves overwhelmed, so much to do, growing fast, how do they stay on top of their priorities?
So we have a lot happening right now for us too. So it's hard, things go in waves and in cycles, but I just sat down with one of my employees and we tried to time block. So we actually sat there and went through the flow and we time blocked out for the next 2 weeks. And it's not always going to stay. I'm already sure that some of those time blocks went out the wayside, but it's 4 hours on design for this client and 6 hours for that. And so we blocked it out. And then the other thing to do is try to set up your initial design meeting so you have your deadline. At least get that first meeting in the calendar, because most people can work better when they have a structure that they can structure themselves to meet a deadline. So, I try to set up realistic design dates so I can work backwards in order to get to that point. Once that first design meeting is done, it's much easier to stay on track.
Yes, I love that advice. For somebody who's just starting out in the industry, you said it's a bit of a challenging time because You got to have some